Good day, everyone. Today we are going to continue looking at worldviews. Before we start, I thought it would be good just to have a brief look at what ground we have already covered with worldviews, specifically, I think, on Tuesdays. So in Tuesday EGW, we had a general look at what a worldview is. We said worldview, simply speaking, is the way we view the world, the way we see reality, how we think things work, our answers to life's big questions. And we then also had a look at what a biblical worldview looks like, if you'll remember that: creation, fall, redemption, eternity. Then also more recently, the I world and T world is one way of almost like seeing the main worldview groupings, certainly in South Africa: I world, individualism; T world, traditionalism. And then just this Tuesday, African traditional religions, one further example of a worldview that fits probably much more on the T world side. Now, there's of course so many other worldviews out there that we haven't covered yet. Perhaps we'll still have the opportunity to do one or two of them, but think of Islam, probably also an example of a T world worldview. On the I world side, there's all sorts of ism words that we could use to describe the I world, or the different streams within the I world. And then, of course, there's also some Eastern worldviews like Buddhism and Hinduism, and some of their westernizations in terms of New Age, or certain forms of mindfulness, etc., etc. So I think the bottom line is there's a lot of etc., etc. These are just examples. And because we don't have the time to go through each and every one of them, what we thought would be helpful is, what if we are able to have some way of analyzing, evaluating, engaging a worldview, some tool set that we can use, and then we can go and use it on every worldview that we come across, even new ones that might arise over time. So the plot for this session then is just to offer a set of tools to engage with the worldviews, and then looking at an example of a worldview, we will use a case study, and then using the tools on the example, hoping that makes sense. So some tools, then an example, and then being able to use those tools on an example. If you remember one of the Tuesday sessions, you will have seen a slide similar to this one. It's basically the what, why, how slide. Do you remember what, why, how as a tool? What is being said? Why is it being said? And how do I engage it as a Christian? And what we are going to be doing for the purposes of this session is we're going to use the what, why, how as our baseline, as our main overarching framework for engaging with a worldview. So we're going to do what, why, how, but then on each of those three, the what, the why, the how, we are going to use a tool that will take us a little bit further into the detail. Now, some of this is familiar to you at this stage, some of this is not. So for the what we are going to use, you haven't seen it in quite this way before. Again, apologies if you're just listening to the audio, you can't see the picture in front of you, but it is in your handout, so please do have your handout in front of you too. So for the what, we are just going to use almost like just some basic headings, big headings of what are the type of things that you would look for, that you would seek to understand in a particular worldview. The tool for the why you will have come across. It's the root and fruit tool. And then I'm giving you a new tool for the how. How do I think about this, discern, evaluate, engage it as a Christian? And I'm going to give you, again, it's not a complicated tool, as you can see, but just sort of almost like three main ways in which we would want to evaluate and engage, being consistency, correspondence, and goodness. So that's the overall framework for today. Now, that's not the only overall framework you can use, of course. You can use different tool sets. You will have also received some other tools in the meantime. There will still be more tools that we'll cover on a Thursday. And so this is just one way of working with it, but hopefully it's a useful way for you. Now, for the purposes of what we're going to do now, you have two handouts. So just make sure that you have had a look at both. The first handout is more of a fill-in form. It basically offers this framework that we have in front of us here, and allows you to fill in some of the blanks underneath each of those as we go through our case study, as we go through our example. And then the other handout, you probably don't need to have that in front of you right now, is basically a fully worked example. So it's using the case study we're going to do, and it's basically my attempt to fill in some of the headings under this tool, or under the set of tools, I should say. Okay, so very briefly speaking then, the what part of the tool, we would just be looking at how a particular worldview answers some of the big questions of life. So what does it say about God, who he is, what he's like? What does it say about humanity? What does it say about us as human beings? Who am I? Who are we? Then also problem and solution. What is the problem with the world, and what is the solution that this worldview sees? And then also, how should we live? The moralities or the values question. And then also worth bringing out explicitly, I think, is the storyline. So basically, what's the storyline that's being offered? Are we living in a story? What kind of a story is it? What is the plot? Then with regard to why, again, you've done this before, but a worldview is a little bit like a tree. It has roots and it has fruit. So the root is, what are some of the foundations, some of the assumptions being made. Often these assumptions are hidden, like the roots of a tree. What is it based on? What are some of the presuppositions, the things that it takes as self-evident but doesn't actually question? And then the fruit, where is it leading us? Where is it going to? What are the implications? What are the consequences? If we follow this to its logical conclusion, where does it take us? And then the how. How do we engage a worldview? I'm offering this very simple triangle. Let me explain that a little bit further. So what we're doing right now is I'm just going through the theory, and then we'll use it on an example. The consistency question is basically the question that asks, well, does it make sense? Is there something, does it fit together nicely, or is it self-contradictory in some way? The correspondence question is about correspondence with reality. So basically, does it explain what we know about reality? Does it explain our experience? Does it match our experience? Does it pass the reality test? Does it, can it be lived as well? Can you live this thing? And then thirdly, the question of goodness, or I've also added beauty. So where does it take us? Does it actually grow us into better people? So these are very important questions. I think the first two are largely around truth, right? It explores, is this true? And the third question is around, is it good? Now, those are all very, very important and, very critical questions to ask. Now, that's not where we stop, because the other bit that we would want to be able to do, and this is the difficult bit, but the very important bit, is not only to sort of evaluate a worldview, but also then to compare and contrast it to the gospel. So, for example, on the consistency question, does it make sense? Is it possible to show how the gospel makes more sense? On the correspondence with reality question, we would want to be able to show that the gospel is more honest to all of reality. It better explains what we know about reality and what we experience. And then we would also want to show how the gospel is the better story, is the more beautiful story. So there's the plot. There's, by way of a toolbox, this is where we would want to go. Now, let me introduce our case study. Some of you will have seen this. It's called The Secret. It's something that came out, well, in the meantime, probably a little bit more than a decade ago. It came out as a DVD. It came out as a book as well. The book at the time was the most best-selling book in South Africa ever. So this thing was big, and the DVD certainly also made the rounds. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to play you just the first 10 or 12 minutes of the DVD. You can look at the whole thing if you really want to. So if I just go to YouTube and I type in The Secret, my first 3 hits were 3 different uploads of the very same movie. So you can look at the whole thing if you want. But really, you will get a very, very good idea of the movie, even just from that first bit that I'm going to play you. The rest is just a little bit more detail, a little bit more coloring in, but it doesn't actually give you so much fundamentally new. You will have got the drift. So here comes the movie.
A year ago, my life had collapsed around me. I'd worked myself into exhaustion. My father died suddenly, and my relationships were in turmoil. Little did I know at the time, out of my greatest despair was to come the greatest gift. I'd been given a glimpse of a great secret. I began tracing the secret back through history. I couldn't believe all the people who knew this. They were the greatest people in history. Why doesn't anyone know this? All I wanted to do was share the secret with the world. I began searching for people alive today who know the secret. One by one, they began to emerge.
You know, this secret gives you everything you want. Happiness, health, and wealth.
You can have, do, or be anything you want.
We can have whatever it is that we choose. I don't care how big it is.
What kind of a house do you want to live in?
Do you want to be a millionaire?
What kind of a business do you want to have?
Do you want more success?
What do you really want?
I've seen many miracles take place in people's lives. Financial miracles, miracles of physical healing, mental healing, healing in relationships.
All of this happened because of knowing how to apply the secret.
This is the great secret of life.
You've probably been sitting there wondering, what is the secret? I'll tell you how I have come to understand it. We all work with one infinite power. We all guide ourselves by exactly the same laws. The natural laws of the universe are so precise that we don't even have any difficulty building spaceships. We can send people to the moon, and we can time the landing with the precision of a fraction of a second. I don't care if you're in India, if you're in Australia, New Zealand, Stockholm, or London, or Toronto, or Montreal, or New York. We're all working with one power, one law. It's attraction. The secret is the law of attraction. Everything that's coming into your life, you are attracting into your life. And it's attracted to you by virtue of the images you're holding in your mind. It's what you're thinking. You see, whatever is going on in your mind, you are attracting to you. Now, wise people have always known that. You can go right back to the ancient Babylonians. They've always known this. It's a small, select group of people. Why do you think that 1% of the population earns around 96% of all the money that's being earned? Do you think that's an accident? It's no accident. It's designed that way. They understand something. They understand the secret. And you are being introduced to the secret.
The simplest way for me to look at the law of attraction is if I think of myself as a magnet, and I know that a magnet will attract to it.
Very basically put, the law of attraction says that like attracts like, but we're really talking at a level of thought.
Our job as humans is to hold on to the thoughts of what we want, make it absolute clear in our minds what we want, and from that we start to invoke one of the greatest laws in the universe, and that's the law of attraction. You become what you think about most, but you also attract what you think about most.
If you see it in here, you're going to hold it here.
And that principle can be summed up in 3 simple words. Thoughts become things.
What most people don't understand is a thought has a frequency. Every thought has a frequency. We can measure a thought. And so if you're thinking that thought over and over and over again, or if you're imagining in your mind, okay, having that brand new car, having the money that you need, building that company, finding your soulmate, if you imagine what that looks like, you're emitting that frequency on a consistent basis.
Thoughts are sending out that magnetic signal that is drawing the parallel back to you.
See yourself living in abundance, and you will attract it. It always works. It works every time with every person.
Here's the problem. Most people are thinking about what they don't want, and they're wondering why it shows up over and over and over again.
The law of attraction doesn't care whether you perceive something to be good or bad, or whether you don't want it or whether you do want it. It's responding to your thoughts. So if you're sitting there looking at a mountain of debt, feeling terrible about it, that's the signal you're putting out into the universe. Wow, I feel really bad because of all this debt I've got. You're just affirming it to yourself. You feel it on every level of your being. That's what you're going to get more of.
The law of attraction is really obedient. When you think of the things that you want and you focus on them with all of your intention, the law of attraction will give you what you want every time. When you focus on the things that you don't want, I don't want to be late, I don't want to be late, you really are calling that into existence. The law of attraction doesn't hear that you don't want it, and so it's going to show up over and over and over again. The law of attraction is not biased to wants or don't wants. It manifests the things that you're thinking of.
The law of attraction is always working. Whether you believe it or understand it or not, it's always working.
It's working as much as you're thinking. Anytime your thoughts are flowing, the law of attraction is operational. When you're thinking about the past, the present, or the future, the law of attraction is working. It's an ongoing process. You don't press pause, you don't press stop. It is forever in action, as your thoughts are.
Creation is always happening. Every time an individual has a thought or a prolonged, chronic way of thinking, They're in the creation process. Something is going to manifest out of those thoughts.
Law of attraction says, we'll give you whatever it is you say and focus on. And so if you're complaining about how bad it is, what you're creating is more of how bad it is.
Oh, look, I got that.
Good. By way of a brief summary, the secret is the law of attraction. In essence, everything that is coming into your life, you are attracting by virtue of your thoughts and feelings. Whatever you're thinking, you're attracting into your life. I just thought I'd also give you a few more quotes from the book. I've also added these on your second handout on the first page. So some quotes. Nothing, I presume that means nothing good or bad. Nothing can come into your experience unless you summon it through persistent thoughts. Another quote, your thoughts are the primary cause of everything. Your current reality or your current life is a result of the thoughts you have been thinking. One person at some point says, there isn't a single thing that you cannot do with this knowledge. The secret can give you whatever you want. By it, you will come to know how you can have, be, or do anything you want. Another person says, make a command to the universe written in the book with a capital U. Let the universe know what you want. The universe responds to your thought. The universe will start to rearrange itself to make it happen for you. And Joe Vitale, one of the people in the video, says, this is really fun. It's like having the universe as your catalog. You flip through it and say, I'd like to have this experience, and I'd like to have that product, and I'd like to have a person like that. It is you placing your order with the universe. It's really that easy. Some of the bits that I haven't shown you, just to summarize them very briefly. How do I get the secret to work in my life? They are offering 3 simple steps. The steps are ask, believe, receive. So ask, clarify exactly what it is that you want and be very specific about it. Believe that you already have it and live accordingly. And then receive, feel that it has arrived, rejoice in having received it, live it, and it will come to you. The book and DVD also offer 2 techniques to help this process along. One of them is gratitude. Basically, be thankful for what you have. Live in an attitude of gratitude. And visualization. Basically, picture yourself, whatever, thin, rich, healthy, etc. Think it, feel it, visualize it. And that would apply to money and houses and cars, but also to health and to relationships. Then, apologies, this part will not be in your notes, but just 1 or 2 further quotes that are not in the DVD, but that are in the book, just to show some of the other things that Rhonda Byrne is drawing on. You are God in a physical body. You are spirit in the flesh. You are eternal life expressing itself as you. You are a cosmic being. You are all power. You are all wisdom. You are all intelligence. You are all perfection. You are magnificence. You are the creator, and you are creating the creation of you on this planet. The naughty part of me goes, try and say, I am magnificence to your family and see how they respond. Here's another quote. You are the heir to the kingdom. Prosperity is your birthright, and you hold the key to more abundance in every area of your life than you can possibly imagine. You deserve every good thing you want, but you have to summon it into your life. Okay, I think that gives a good summary. Oh, by the way, then there's also this. If you bought the DVD, it came, I'm not sure about the book as well, it came with this. It's basically a check. And the idea of this check is that you can see it's to the Universal Bank Unlimited. Your wish is my command, says the universe to you. And basically you're meant to write onto this check the amount that you would want the universe to deliver to you. And then, I don't know, put it in a good place, keep visualizing it until the universe delivers. So perhaps take a moment, press pause, and just please do this because there's now a lot of things you've seen and heard. So just take a moment to let it sink in, and to figure out what is your initial response. What did you think? What did you feel? What did you hear? What did you see? What is your response to this? Press pause, and I'm playing us on. Now, let's go through our toolbox, and let's see whether this toolbox isn't going to be very helpful to us in understanding what the secret is saying, in evaluating it and engaging with it. So let's start with the what part, the way to understand a worldview. Now, again, on each of these, perhaps just try some of this yourself. So in terms of, what does it say about God, about humanity, problem solution, morality, values, storyline? You should have that in front of you in the first handout, the one that has the blanks where you can fill in some of the things that that you think and that you have observed and that you have discerned. So again, just give yourself a moment to complete that, and then let's move on. So here are some of my thoughts, and some of my thoughts are now also in the second handout. I apologize that you now need to keep toggling between them. Otherwise, you can also just listen and then look at the worked example in your own time afterwards, just as a way of revising. So what does the secret say about God? As far as I can see, there's no sort of God in the sense that a Christian would understand God. There is this impersonal force, this energy, or the universe, as I said in the book, that's actually written with a capital U. And perhaps God is at best a label to describe that energy. Then what about humanity? Well, what does it say about me? What does it say about us? I think it's a very, it largely has something to say about me. And basically, I am the shaper of my destiny, of my reality. In effect, I am God. Because it's almost like, according to the secret, I have God-like qualities. I can bring things into existence with my thoughts and feelings. I shape reality. The book says, you are the master of the universe. Capital M, capital U. Okay, what about problem and solution? According to the secret, the problem is thinking negative thoughts or feeling negative feelings. And the solution then is to ask and believe and receive. It's very simple. So basically what it's saying, if you notice, both the problem and solution lie entirely inside of you. You have no one else to blame if things go wrong. You have no one else to thank if things go right. Then what about morality and values? Okay, so all the secret does is it says place your orders. It almost assumes that if you want it, it's got to be good. So notice it doesn't actually ask the question whether the order that you're placing is in any way good or right. It basically does not offer a moral compass of any sort. And then in terms of the storyline, well, again, is there really a storyline? Is there really a plot? I think the only story is the story of me and me getting what I want. I don't think there's a storyline that is bigger than that. So this tool is about the what. It's basically just to sort of figure out what is the worldview that is being offered. And these are some of the big categories under which we would want to understand a worldview. So moving on, the why part, what I thought we could do on that one, because it is a tool that you've used before, is for you to actually do this as homework. So you can fill it in on your first handout. I will also give you a little quiz thing under Blackboard in which you can also fill this in. This does not need to be a lot of text. You don't need to write a lot, but perhaps just do this as a way of reinforcing the root and fruit tool that you've already come across. Now, here's a small hint. If you, as we go through the rest of this, you will actually notice that indirectly I'm actually touching on some root and some fruit stuff. So you will actually be able to extract at least some of the answer out of some of the stuff that we're going through now and in your second handout. But do this as an exercise. It's not going to take you more than 5 minutes. Just try and write a sentence or two on what is the root of the secret, what is the fruit of the secret. You can do this now if you want. You can press pause, or you can do this afterwards. Let me move on then to the how part of our toolbox, which is how do we engage it. Now, remember, those were our questions, or those were the big categories under which we would want to evaluate a worldview. Now, what I'm going to do with the secret, and perhaps it'll become clear why, is I'm actually going to start with the last one, with the goodness and beauty one. I think this is the one that is likely to be the most important to people who feel drawn towards the secret. That is why I'm starting there. The other two are important, we'll get to them, but this is where I'm starting. In each of these three, what we would want to do is we would want to find out, are there things in the worldview that we can affirm? And also, are there things that perhaps should be challenged? So if we start with goodness and beauty, I suppose one of the things that we can affirm is that it's quite attractive, right? It makes you feel good. The secret is a very positive thing. It's refreshing. It has, it resonates with us. It has a yes factor. So we can affirm that we should take responsibility for our lives, that we shouldn't have a victim outlook on life, that we should be grateful. But in terms of the things to challenge, notice what the secret is doing to us. I think it very much appeals to our greed and our demandingness, our controlling nature, right? I want to do it my way and make it all go my way. So in a way, the secret appeals to the very worst within us. The secret doesn't ask the goodness question. It doesn't ask what we should or should not be asking for. It offers nothing to inform our values and priorities, no moral compass other than our feelings. It doesn't in any way account for the possibility that some of my desires and motives may not be good ones. It just offers technique, really. What would you say to a friend who has just been diagnosed with cancer or whose child has just died? Are you going to tell them you attracted it? Can you see the problem? And you may also then say it may be best to stay away from them lest you be affected by their negative thoughts. That's where I think the secret would tell us. It's like anybody who's not doing well, they're clearly not doing well because of their negative thoughts. I need to stay away from them so that I don't get infected by the negativity. So taken to its logical conclusion, if someone experiences pain or suffering, it's their own fault. It doesn't promote compassion for others. It erodes our sense of responsibility to take care of the earth and each other. Because basically, remember, you place your order, I place mine. I can't place your order for you. So the secret provides, I think, a very shallow basis for handling our joys and our sorrows. It leaves us less able to experience a fullness of joy, because all good in my life is there because I deserve it and because I attracted it. And it also leaves me less equipped to deal with my sorrows in a way that is healthy and healing. Because according to the secret, if something goes wrong in my life, what happened to me is my own fault. What comfort, what solace is in that? If you always get what you deserve, where's the grace in that? When you're not in a good place, you need grace to break through into your life, not a visualization technique. There was a Newsweek article at the time that actually criticized how the secret centered itself, I'm quoting, almost entirely on a narrow range of middle-class concerns: houses, cars, vacations, followed by health and relationships, with the rest of humanity a very distant sixth in terms of priorities. So Can you see this? That the rest of humanity just doesn't appear on my radar. I'm too caught up in myself when I follow the secret. And the key question to ask then, is that good? Is that beautiful? And it can actually be the very opposite. It can potentially be quite cruel. So think of someone who's HIV positive and now they're buying into the secret and they're doing this visualization and they are visualizing themselves healthy and they are stopping taking the antiretrovirals because they are visualizing themselves as HIV negative. I think that's cruel. That's not good. That is not goodness. Okay, so then moving on to consistency, the first criteria in the list that I'm coming back to. Consistency is about, does it make sense within itself? So try and picture this. Can you actually even conceive of a universe in which different people can pull reality in entirely different and often contradictory directions? So an example, if there's any World Cup, whether it's soccer or rugby or whatever, there's only one team that can win the cup. But all teams surely are visualizing holding that cup. All teams are thinking positive thoughts, but only one team can win. So it just doesn't make sense. It's not consistent that all you need to do is visualize and think positive and you'll get what you want. Or another example, think of any human transaction. So let's say I want to sell something to you and I'm using this law of attraction thing to attract a high price. But you now, on your side, you're working hard on thinking positive thoughts about a very low price. Now what? Here's another example. I hope it's not too silly, but let's say I want someone to love me. That's one of the examples in The Secret, right? I want someone to love me. And so I place my order to the universe. But what if she, in the meantime, has placed an order for another guy? How does the universe fulfill both orders? It just doesn't make sense. Another key point, I think, where the secret does not make sense is with regard to the gratitude thing. So the big question here is gratitude to whom or what? Gratitude implies it's a gift, right? And so it implies that there's a giver. But in the worldview of The Secret, you effectively give it to yourself, right? You attract it. There's no one really to thank but yourself. Now, here's the thing. If you have genuine gratitude to someone outside of yourself, you're stepping outside of the world of The Secret and into a world with real gifts from a real giver. So in a way, what The Secret is doing is it's what I would call worldview cheating. Okay, so it's using the language of gratitude, but gratitude doesn't actually fit within its own framework. It's actually cheating. It's taking something from outside and pulling it in to almost like to capitalize on the value of that. But the moment you have genuine gratitude, then it's gratitude towards someone, right? To someone outside of yourself. And the moment you've done that, you've stepped out of The Secret. Good. I'm hoping that made sense. And then just some thoughts on correspondence. So correspondence with reality. Does it pass the reality test? Does it match our experience? So again, there are many things we can affirm, and perhaps it's always good, especially in our conversations, to start there. So we can affirm the awareness that something is not as it should be, the yearning for a better reality than the one we're currently experiencing. That is one of the almost like assumptions that The Secret is making, and it's a right assumption, right? This isn't as good as it gets. We do long for something better. We can affirm that our thoughts and feelings and attitudes can have a great effect, that we can and indeed should have an influence on reality. We can also affirm that there's a link. There is a link between my attitude and that of others towards me. So, there is that sort of dynamic that people who are positive tend to be more attractive almost to others. So we can affirm that our thoughts have a lot of power. That is true. But do our thoughts have power over everything as it basically is claimed? I think that's false. So our thoughts have power, but this is this is a tricky one. So let me try. Because this is the point at which I think a lot of Christians are also like almost like buying into the secret type of a worldview. And so we need to be careful here. The way that our thoughts have power is normally by the chain of having an idea, translating that into some action, and then seeing the results or the fruits of that action. That is normally the way a human being operates. That is the way that God has designed us and created us to be. Okay? We have thoughts, we have words with which to express those thoughts. So those are our ideas. But the way that our thoughts have power is we then apply ourselves. Okay, we apply our hands or whatever. We do stuff. And it's then those actions that bring results. That's the normal mode of operating. The normal mode of operating is not that we, just by our thoughts or by our words, call things into existence or pronounce things or confess things into existence. Right? The only person who, by his mere words, creates is God. We do not create in that way. We are also creative, but not in the way that God creates. We are creative by taking the raw materials that God has given us and rearranging them in some way and being creative in that way. But again, can you see how it involves our actions? And then we see the results of those actions. But it has to go via us applying ourselves via our actions. Other things to possibly partially affirm. Some people are positive and successful and just seem to attract good things, and others do seem to just be attracting problems and hardships. I mean, yes, one could see where the secret is coming from on that, but I don't think that's the full picture. So I think we also all know people who are very positive, but bad things still happen to them. So let's be honest about that. The most positive people in the world have experienced setbacks and disease and pain and turmoil. And then I think on the other side as well, most of us can think of a time when we were down and out and negative, and something good has happened. So it would be very dishonest to ignore these complexities. Okay, I can certainly, from my life, I will have had periods where I was, very positive and then something bad happened, or not very positive and then something good happened. Now, if the secret is true, that couldn't have happened, right? The secret cannot explain those nuances. The secret can't actually offer you an explanation of that part of our experience, and it's such a big part of our experience. Some things, whether good or bad, happen even though we have not invested any thought in them. So think of an unexpected cancer diagnosis. Okay, the person who got that unexpected diagnosis didn't go around mulling over cancer all the time. And what about the small baby that dies? The baby hasn't yet had a chance to think much about anything. What about, I don't know, let's say, for example, the events of 9/11 some years ago. Are we trying to say that people in the Twin Towers that basically got flown into and crashed down, are we saying that people in those buildings thought more negatively than people in the Empire State Building down the road? Think of, we've just been celebrating 75 years since the end of World War II. Think of the Holocaust. Are we saying, as the secret would probably have us, that Jews in Germany thought more negatively than Jews in England? Is that where we want to go with this? you may find this worldview of The Secret attractive for as long as you're young enough and healthy enough with money enough. But stick around long enough, and The Secret is likely to fail the real world test. Or perhaps don't even wait until it fails your reality check. Just observe even now how it has already failed other people's reality check. Think also of all those people throughout history who are claimed to have known about The Secret. Why did they all die? Why did none of them manage to live much beyond 100 years? Didn't one of them think positively enough about immortality, or at least longevity? So again, here's a point at which The Secret just does not correspond with what we know of reality. The Secret also offers a rather shallow and inadequate diagnosis and remedy for what's wrong. What if the problem is far deeper than just thinking negative thoughts? And what if the solution is far more profound than training ourselves to think right thoughts? What if we're broken beyond our own capacity to heal ourselves? So again, The Secret just offers an inadequate explanation for reality. So yes, there does seem to be some correspondence for some people some of the time, okay, where what I think seems to play itself out in what I experience. But surely this only explains some of reality. It only explains some of our experience. And The Secret remains silent about the so many counterexamples that one can give. It doesn't in any way grapple with the reality of sin. It remains totally silent about death. Okay, you're not going to hear anything about death in The Secret. It basically pretends it's not there. It's ignoring that. But to ignore the reality of death is dishonest. It does not describe reality as it is. So if we're looking for a good worldview, a good explanation of things, we need to have one that's big enough to be able to deal with sin and death. And The Secret just isn't it. Right, so that was the part where we are affirming and challenging. But now remember, I said that's actually not our job done yet. And it's also, I think, certainly not our conversation done yet. Because, yeah, all we've done so far is we've sort of basically worked out what might be right and what might be wrong about this worldview, what to affirm, what to challenge. But one of the most important things we can now do is also to be able to show how the gospel is the better story, right? How we almost can complete the narrative that is being offered. So with regard to consistency, how does the gospel make more sense than this thing? Is there a way that we can show that the gospel is more honest to all of reality and is a better and more beautiful story? And you can see, I think, the importance of that. Now, one of the reasons this is even more important with a worldview like The Secret is just think about, you see, what we got to do is we got to be very careful with how we engage our friend who is bought into this worldview. Because if we just approach our friend and tell them, but this doesn't make sense and this doesn't pass the reality test, how are we actually coming across? This is important, right? So if we're just saying this is what's wrong with your worldview, the way we're going to come across is, well, you know, this guy is thinking negative thoughts and this guy needs to be avoided. And we have just lost the conversation. We've lost the potential to have a meaningful conversation with our friend who's bought into The Secret. So on something like this, it's so important to tread a little bit more carefully and to be able to show the positive alternative. So not just to criticize what's what's stupid about what they're believing, but actually to point to a better, larger, more honest, more beautiful reality. So for the rest of the session then, I just want to give you my attempt at that. You may have other thoughts, that's great. Add them to it as well. Again, perhaps this is a moment to pause if you want to and think, how would you answer the questions. If you're looking at the video versions, those are questions in yellow along the right-hand side. And the 3 points I'm going to bring are not exactly those 3 points, but you can see how they map. So firstly, what I would love to show my friend is how the gospel is actually a better reality. How so? Well, isn't it a better universe if I'm not the one who's master? If I actually let God be the master? I don't always know what's best, but he does know. I sometimes do know what's best, but nevertheless I don't want it. But he does want it. So it's a far better universe if he's in charge. It's a far better universe if it's not created by me. According to the Bible, and I very much think also according to our experience, this universe is much more beautiful than anything I could have thought up. It's much richer, it's much fuller, it's much more wondrous, much more amazing. Praise God that he made it. It turned out much better that way than if I would have made it. Here's another one. The story of God's good purposes will prevail is much greater, much more beautiful, is much more wonderful, much richer than the story of I will get what I want. And I think that should be clear to us, unless we're so caught up in ourselves that we can't even see it anymore. Another one, receiving a gift from a giver is a more beautiful reality than me earning it all with my positive thoughts and feelings. Grace is a better story than my own achievement. At the heart of the gospel is not achievement, but grace. Also, The Secret offers a sense of cosmic connectedness, I suppose, which can be quite appealing, but it's kind of like an I-it relationship with an impersonal universe. Okay? It's me relating to an it. The gospel, in contrast, points to an I-you relationship with a person God. And a real and intimate relationship with a person God surely is far beyond a mere sense of cosmic connectedness. So it's a better reality, the gospel is, than The Secret. I'd also love to show my friend that the gospel is a more honest description of reality. Why? Because remember, The Secret doesn't mention sin or death, whereas the Bible is honest about our brokenness and our leaning towards not always wanting what is good. The Bible's honest about our questionable motives, about our selfishness, our sinfulness, and it also describes how God dealt with it. The Bible acknowledges the severity of the problem, and it offers a very profound solution. It tells the story of God in Jesus going to great lengths and through great pain to provide the only solution possible, a story of real and costly forgiveness, and a story of deep heart change and transformation, something that touches the very core of our being in a very beautiful way. The Secret can't even begin to scratch those depths with its very superficial diagnosis and remedy. So the Bible is honest about the reality and severity of death also. It doesn't pretend it doesn't exist. And it also affirms that death is not normal, that it's not the way it's meant to be, and that God is taking us forward to a time when there will be no more death. So the Bible offers great hope in the face of death. What does The Secret offer? And then thirdly, and I suppose this also again just connects with, I think, both consistency and beauty, but the fact that the gospel story is a reality greater than myself. The gospel points to true freedom. I don't have to play God's role. I'm not caught up in myself. The Secret is the worldview of self. The focus is on me. It's unhealthy. It's corrosive. It's even destructive. And being caught up in myself is not a good place. It's also a very small place to be. That's not freedom. Life is not ultimately about me, but about others and God. And the discovery that life isn't ultimately about me isn't a disappointment. It's amazingly liberating. It actually gives us more significance, not less. Because now we find our story to be part of a much greater story. We find a purpose and meaning much greater than ourselves. Ultimately, we can't save ourselves, but we can place our trust in the one who can save us. That's the most wonderful reality imaginable. At the heart of the gospel is someone who died for his enemies to open the way to win them over, that they might become his friends, his family. What a story! It's the story of ultimate other-centeredness, of great love, of great sacrifice, of relationship. It's a much, much better story than the story of self-indulgence. The Secret doesn't offer much of a horizon beyond our own noses, beyond our own indulgent wants. The gospel widens our horizon far beyond ourselves to a reality far greater than ourselves, to a purpose far greater than ourselves. Don't settle for anything less, and don't settle for anything that distracts you from it. So, do you want to become everything you can be? I think that's okay. But what better way to do that than to follow the one who has everything we need when it comes to becoming all we can be? Think of some of the things Jesus said about himself. I am the resurrection and the life. I am the door. I am the light of the world. I am the way, the truth, the life. So those are words of invitations to follow the one who has everything we need when it comes to becoming all we can be. And as we follow him, chances are that he will show us and help us experience how true joy is not found in seeking self-fulfillment or self-indulgence, but actually perhaps even more in self-forgetfulness. He'll show us how true joy is found not in the pursuit of self, but in the pursuit of God. How it's found not in the pursuit of God's stuff, but in the pursuit of God himself. Christians have the hope and assurance of heaven. This allows them to be more relaxed when not everything goes their way here and now. They can affirm their lives, irrespective of what it entails. Okay? So whether things go well or badly, they can say yes to life because they have been given a small but significant glimpse of the end of the story. Okay? They know who they are in Christ. They know where they're going. They know where the story is going. They can affirm life, even when life isn't everything that we would want it to be right now. So these then are some ideas towards how we could engage with a worldview like The Secret. I'm hoping that that made sense. So, The Secret is about positive thoughts. What I'm trying to show is not only that it's problematic, but that there's actually a worldview that contains even more positive thoughts. The thoughts of The Secret are small and potentially harmful. The thoughts of the gospel are true and beautiful and healing and expansive. Thoughts of grace are more positive than thoughts of works, etc., etc. I'm hoping that in many ways that was useful. Allow me to pray for us as we close. Lord, thank you that you are the creator and sustainer and king of the universe. Lord, thank you that it's not us. It's better that way, that it's you. Lord, thank you that even though our problem is a very deep and painful and profound one, the problem of sin, thank you, Lord, that you have spared no pain yourself in order to make it possible for us to be restored to you and restored to who we are meant to be. Lord, thank you that although the problem is real, the solution is real and comprehensive. And Lord, thank you that you offer a moral compass in your word, that you are helping us to discern what is good for ourselves and for others. And we do pray that we're able to live for you and also seek the good of others, that our horizon would extend far beyond our own noses as we seek to love you and love those around us. Lord, thank you for you. Amen.